The screaming didn't stop, even after the handcuffs clicked shut. For officers, one teenage boy, face down in the gravel behind a public housing unit. His mother screaming his name. No weapon, no stolen goods, no explanation. And when she shouted, "This is my child," they told her to calm down or she'd be charged too. They never asked for his name. They just saw his skin and assumed the worst. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. It was 9:07 a.m. when Kendra Lawson heard the first shout echo across the courtyard. She was pouring cereal. Elijah, her 14-year-old son, was lacing his sneakers by the door. He wore a gray hoodie, khakis, and his school ID badge on a red lanyard. A routine morning. Except it wasn't. Kendra's building sat on the edge of the Harrison Courts housing complex, Building C, 3rd floor. For months, she'd been on edge. Ever since Elijah had been questioned by two plainclothes officers in front of their apartment. He hadn't done anything, just matched a vague description. No apology. No report. Just a warning. Be more careful where he hangs out. That was 3 months ago. Today was supposed to be quiet. The knock on the door wasn't a knock, it was fists. Angry. Fast. Kendra opened it, already tense. Two white officers. No smiles. "You live here?" One asked. "Yes, this is 3C. What's this about?" "Got a call. Male suspect. Possibly armed. Ran into this complex. There's no one here but me and my son." They didn't wait. Just moved past her. Kendra followed. Elijah had stepped into the kitchen, confused. "Mom?" Then came the shout. "Hands where I can see them." What's going on?" Elijah raised his arms. The second officer tackled him instantly. No warning. No pause. Kendra screamed. "Wait, that's my son. He lives here." She reached for her phone. One officer grabbed her by the arm, pushed her against the wall. "Don't interfere, ma'am. I have his school ID. Please." Elijah was sobbing now. One taser click. Then another. "Stop. Stop. Please. He fits the call." One officer barked. "The call for what?" "We live here." They forced Elijah down, knee on his back. Kendra reached for her purse with her free hand. She never made it. A baton hit her wrist, sending white-hot pain through her arm. She collapsed. Then came the sound of footsteps. Another officer entered. Looked around. "What apartment?" 3C, someone said. "No," the new one replied, checking his radio. Suspect fled into 5B. A silence followed. Long, heavy. Elijah whimpered. Kendra lay on the floor, clutching her wrist. The officer who'd hit her didn't speak. No one did. They cuffed Elijah anyway. And when she screamed his name again, they told her to quiet down. Or she'd be next. The ambulance didn't arrive until 9:42. By then, Elijah had been in the back of a squad car for over 20 minutes, face still bleeding from where his cheek hit the pavement. No medical attention. No explanation. Kendra sat on the curb, her right wrist wrapped in a makeshift splint from a neighbor's towel. She wasn't allowed to stand. Not once did anyone say, "Are you okay, ma'am?" Not once did they call her by name. She was a problem to contain, not a person to help. "What's his name?" the paramedic finally asked, checking Elijah's pulse. Kendra spoke quickly, through pain. "Elijah Lawson. 14. He has asthma. He's a student at James P. High." The paramedic nodded, glanced at the officer standing nearby. "Why's he in cuffs?" "Subject of interest," the officer replied. "Suspect in a break-in. He's bleeding." He resisted. Kendra choked back a laugh. Or a scream. She wasn't sure which. "You tossed a child. In his own kitchen." "We followed protocol, ma'am." She wanted to ask, "Do you even know what that word means?" But she said nothing. Her wrist throbbed too hard. At the precinct, she wasn't allowed to sit with Elijah in the intake room. They placed her in a separate waiting area, pending medical transport, even though the EMT had already cleared her to leave. 2 hours passed. A young black officer finally entered, clipboard in hand. "Ms. Lawson?" She looked up. He avoided eye contact. "We're going to need you to confirm your son's identity and residence. You'll also need to complete this witness affidavit." "Witness to what?" He cleared his throat. "The reported break-in." There was no break-in. He shifted awkwardly. "Then just sign where it says you were present during initial contact." She stared at the line. The form described her apartment as location of apprehension. Not home. Not residence. Just a place. A trap. "I'm not signing anything," she said. The officer nodded once. Left. A door slammed nearby. By the time Elijah was released, it was after 5 p.m. No charges. No apology. Just a bruised face, sore ribs, and paperwork that didn't explain anything. Kendra held his hand as they walked to the exit. Outside, the sun was setting. They passed the same officer who had tackled him that morning. He was laughing with another cop, eating chips. Didn't even glance their way. Elijah paused. They really think I did something, don't they? Kendra squeezed his hand tighter. No, baby. They just needed you to be the one who could have. He didn't respond. And for the first time in years, he didn't look back when they walked away. The next morning, Kendra sat across from a community legal counselor. The room smelled like old paper and recycled coffee. A poster behind the desk read, "We believe survivors of systemic harm." She hoped it was true. The counselor, a short woman named Layla, read through Kendra's handwritten account, line by line, quietly. Then she looked up. You're saying they entered your home without a warrant? Yes. No consent? None. Layla nodded slowly. And your son was detained, tossed, and released with no charges filed? Kendra leaned forward. He wasn't even booked. They wrote, field interview only. Layla's expression changed. Slightly. That phrase meant something. Something bad. At 1:17 p.m., they submitted a formal complaint to the East Newark Police Department. Demand for body cam footage. Internal report access. Timeline of response units. 3 hours later, they got a reply. Request denied. Footage not available. Case classified as closed field inquiry. No apology. No explanation. Just a wall. Kendra sat outside her apartment building on the concrete stoop, phone pressed to her ear. She'd already called 5 times. This was the 6th. I need to speak to the officer who filed the initial response at apartment 3C. There was a mistake. My son was injured. The voice on the other end stayed flat. There's no open case under that unit. That's the problem. Click. The line went dead. She stared at her phone, then opened her notes app and typed. No report equals no review equals no justice. Later that night, she checked Elijah's back. Faint bruises now. 2 taser dots still visible near his spine. He didn't flinch. Didn't say anything. Just lay there. Finally, he whispered. Why do they think I'm scary? She brushed his hair back. Because they don't see a boy. They see a target. He didn't cry. Neither did she. There wasn't anything left to drain. The next morning, Kendra walked into the East Newark precinct lobby. Alone. She wore her nursing badge. Her best shoes. I'm here for a copy of the officer complaint protocol. And the form to request IA review. The officer at the desk raised an eyebrow. What's your complaint? Officer misconduct. Excessive force. Minor injury. Officer name? She paused. They never gave it. The man smirked. Can't file without a name. She exhaled through her nose. Then smiled politely. Good thing I brought the taser photos. And 3 eyewitness numbers. That changed his tone. He handed her 2 forms. Internal affairs is slow. Could take months. I'll wait, she said. But she wouldn't. She would find her own answers. Starting with the report that didn't exist. The letter came in a thin white envelope with no return address. Kendra opened it with shaking hands. Thank you for your submission. Your complaint has been received and will be processed in accordance with department policy. No contact name. No time frame. No phone number. Just a tracking number. Like a package. Like she was shipping trauma and waiting for a receipt. She called the number listed at the bottom. A robot answered. For updates, press 3. For general questions, press 5. For all other inquiries, return to main menu. She pressed every number. The line disconnected. Twice. At school, Elijah was different. His teachers noticed. His shoulders hunched. He no longer raised his hand in class. Didn't speak unless spoken to. At lunch, he sat near the hallway exit. He'd stopped sketching. Kendra met with his guidance counselor, a middle-aged man with a beige tie and forced kindness. It's not uncommon after events like this, he said. Teenage boys process differently. She stared at him. He was tossed in his own kitchen. By men with guns. And no one said sorry. The counselor cleared his throat. We can offer him some counseling time. Once a week. Once a week. For pain he carried every hour. Back at home, Kendra opened her computer. Search for the words. Police mistake child arrest no charges body cam refused. Dozens of results. Different cities. Different names. Same silence. Same closing line. The department declined to comment. She clicked on a video. A mother crying on a courthouse step. A teenager beside her, staring down. The screen blurred. Not from buffering. from tears. She closed the laptop. The next day, she returned to the precinct, walked to the same desk. I want to speak to someone in charge. Now. The officer at the window didn't move. There's no one available. Then give me a name. Your complaint has been logged. I want an update. It's under review. By who? He leaned forward. Ma'am, that's classified. She laughed. Bitter. It wasn't classified when you entered my house without a warrant. When you tackled my son. When you broke my wrist. I wasn't there. But you're here now. Silence. He turned away. Typed something she couldn't see. Then slid a card under the window. External Review Board, municipal level. Just a number. No name. Another layer. Another door. Another hallway that didn't end. That night, Elijah finally asked, Am I still in the system? Kendra looked up from the sink. What do you mean? Like, is there a file? Did they make one? She didn't know what to say. Because yes, there probably was. Even if they said otherwise. Even if they deleted it. He knew. And he was asking not for answers, but for confirmation. That he wasn't crazy. The young officer at the municipal review office looked barely 22. Polite. Nervous. Skin pale. Tie crooked. He glanced at Kendra's forms. You're filing against a unit, not a specific officer? I was never given a name. He nodded. That makes it harder. Kendra leaned in. Not impossible. The room went quiet. He looked again at her documents. Wrist x-ray. Photo of taser marks. Elijah's school badge. We'll submit this, ma'am. Ma'am. First time someone had called her that in 4 days. She filed the papers. Then walked out. But she wasn't done. Not even close. Kendra drove to the local library. Quiet corner. Free Wi-Fi. No cameras. She opened her laptop. Started searching badge rosters. Day of the incident. Unit assignments. Vehicle logs. She couldn't get names. But she found ID numbers. 3 shifts had been deployed to Harrison Courts that morning. 1 unit stayed past 9:30 a.m. Unit #409B. She wrote it down. Cross-referenced public complaint databases. Found 4 mentions of excessive force in the last 18 months. All resolved internally. All anonymous officers. But the tie codes matched. And then she knew. They didn't forget who she was. They just thought she would. At home, Elijah was watching cartoons with the volume too low. Kendra sat beside him. Placed a hand on his shoulder. You okay? He nodded, but didn't speak. She noticed his notebook tucked under the couch. Pulled it out. It was filled with sketches. But not logos. Doors. Locks. Cameras. Every detail of their apartment. Like he was trying to memorize the layout. In case he needed to explain it again. In case they came back. That night, Kendra sent 6 emails. 1 to a former coworker at the local paper. 1 to a civil liberties nonprofit. 1 to a retired defense attorney she'd once cared for at the nursing home. And 3 to city council offices. Each had a different subject. Same body. Same evidence folder. Same line. This isn't a request. It's a record. 3 days later, only 1 reply came. From the retired attorney. Single sentence. I believe you. You're not alone. She stared at those words for a long time. Then opened her closet. Pulled out an old box. Inside, documents from her certification as a nursing coordinator. But also copies of a brief she wrote during her certification. One on wrongful detainment. Back then, it was theory. Now it was fire. She smiled. Just slightly. Because now she remembered, too. She wasn't just a victim. She had teeth. The city clerk's office was slow on Mondays. That helped. Kendra stood at the self-serve legal terminal, scrolling through municipal archives. She searched by unit number first for 09B. Nothing. Then by category. Use of force. Still nothing. Then she tried a different path. Noise complaints. Disturbance reports. Trespass errors. That's when she saw it. March 8th. April 22nd. June 1st. All from the same address block as her building. All closed without citations. All referencing nonviolent resolution, juvenile present. All during Unit 409BS shifts. The system didn't call it misconduct. But she could. Because patterns don't need names. They need pressure. She submitted a public hearing request. A real one. Formal. Titled. Backed with documents. Subject. Failure to document force incident involving minor, Harrison Courts, September 11th. It triggered a 14-day response window. The city had to acknowledge it. Didn't mean they would act, but they had to answer. That was enough. For now. At home, she built a timeline on the wall. String, tacks, printouts. Each event, a dot. Each injury, a line. At the center, Elijah's photo. Not a mugshot. A school picture. Smiling. Hoodie zipped. Human. She labeled it Day 0. And around it, she wrote every officer's phrase from that morning. He fits the call. We followed protocol. Don't interfere. Ma'am, that's classified. Her hand trembled, but she didn't stop writing. And when she finished, she signed her name at the bottom. In ink. The same way she did on medical charts when someone almost died. 2 days later, she received a response from the Civilian Review Liaison Office. A voicemail. Flat voice. Mail. Ms. Lawson, your hearing request has been placed into administrative queue. Standard review timeline applies. Estimated response in 90 to 120 days. 3 to 4 months. For a child who was cuffed in seconds. She didn't curse. Didn't scream. She just played the message again. And again. Then emailed the liaison back. Subject, notification of external documentation release pending non-response. Attachment, a folder. Inside, her timeline. Medical images. Call logs. And a new file. A video. Of her. Reading her account. Clear. Calm. Controlled. It ended with her face, full screen. And her words. If the system remains silent, then the city will hear my voice instead. She didn't post it. Yet. But the link worked. And that was enough for tonight. It happened at the most ordinary place imaginable. The grocery store. Kendra stood in line, holding a bag of rice and a carton of milk. Elijah waited in the car, still nervous around crowds. She didn't see the officer at first, just heard the voice behind her. Ms. Lawson? She turned. Officer. White. Late 20s. Uniform neat. Name tag, Ramirez. She tensed. He raised both hands slightly. I'm not here for official business. She didn't move. Didn't speak. He glanced around. I was one of the first responders. That morning. At 3C. Now she looked at him. Closely. And saw it. His hands were shaking. He continued, voice low. I didn't know what was happening. I just followed orders. Kendra's voice was calm. Did you stop anything? He paused. No. Did you say anything? Longer pause. No. She nodded once. Then you weren't a responder. You were a participant. His face went pale. I just wanted you to know I didn't agree with it. But you did nothing to stop it. He nodded, ashamed, and turned to leave. Kendra called after him. Officer. He stopped. Does Unit 409B have a supervising sergeant? He hesitated, then whispered. Lyric. She memorized it. Watched him walk away. Then walked straight to her car and wrote it down. Sergeant Lyric. 409B. Present at incident. No report filed. The line was tightening, and she was pulling it. That night, Elijah finally sat at her desk. Opened her laptop. Can I add something? She nodded. He typed slowly. Under her timeline chart, he added one phrase. They never asked me my name. She didn't correct the grammar. Didn't touch it. Just let it sit there. A truth no lawyer could deny. 3 days later, her inbox pinged. A reply from City Records. One document attached. She opened it. Response to internal FOIA request. Officer Use of Force Form 11B, September 11th. Filed by Sergeant D. Lyric. It described the event in 5 lines. Response to suspected burglary. Suspect male juvenile. Moderate resistance. Force used. Taser X2. Scene secured. No injuries reported. No mention of Kendra. No mention of wrong address. No photos. Just lies. Typed in black and white. She didn't feel rage. She felt confirmation. That she was right. And they were scared enough to rewrite what already happened. That meant momentum. That meant proof. That meant they bled. And she could make it hurt. The city hearing wasn't public. 3 officials. 1 recorder. 1 legal observer from the department. And Kendra. She didn't bring a lawyer. She brought a folder. Inside, photographs, timelines, a copy of the altered report. The room was quiet as she placed it on the table. The lead official adjusted his glasses. Ms. Lawson, we understand you're here to present grievance material regarding an incident from September 11th? Kendra nodded once. This isn't a grievance. It's a formal misconduct assertion supported by falsified state documentation. He blinked. The room shifted. She opened the folder slowly. Precise. Pulled out the use of force report from Sergeant Larrick. Then the taser photos. Time-stamped. Then Elijah's medical evaluation. Each placed gently on the table, like cards in a courtroom. Then she spoke. The officer wrote, "No injuries reported." That's one lie. She placed a photo of her fractured wrist next. No mention of second subject? That's two. Then Elijah's school ID. And no acknowledgement of misidentified residents? That's three. She looked each panelist in the eye. 3 lies. 3 violations. And I have 7 more ready. Silence. Then one panelist cleared his throat. "You're not a lawyer, are you?" She smiled. "No, just a mother who documents better than your precinct." Later that afternoon, she received an email from a civil oversight consultant. Subject: City Review, escalated. The message was short. Materials forwarded to external panel. Officer names logged. Timeline of internal correspondence flagged for audit. Updates pending. No promises. But something had moved. She saved the email under a new folder. Phase 2. That night, Elijah sat at the kitchen table. He hadn't said much in 2 days, but suddenly asked, "Are they going to come back?" Kendra didn't lie. They might. Will they do it again? She shook her head slowly. Not if they know I'm watching. He thought for a moment, then got up, walked to her desk, and picked up a pen. He drew something on the whiteboard beside her timeline. A camera. Big, simple. Labeled US. Not them. Us. Before going to bed, Kendra logged into the state's legal archive database. Searched one last name. Larrick. Buried in an old report from 3 years ago. A complaint involving juvenile contact. Improper escalation. Closed. Sealed. She screenshotted it. Then added one line to her own file. Pattern detected. Suppressed once. Not again. She clicked save. And slept for the first time in 5 nights. The call came at 2:13 p.m. Blocked number. Kendra almost didn't answer. But she did. A quiet voice. Male. I'm not supposed to be doing this. She sat upright. Doing what? You didn't hear it from me. But there was a memo. Internal only. They're freezing all unit-level inquiries involving Larrick. Pending external review. She blinked. Freezing? Shutting down. Delaying. Moving files off local servers. Kendra's pulse quickened. Why are you telling me? A pause. Then, because I saw the picture. The boy's face. The line clicked. Silence. But it was enough. She knew what came next. When they go underground, you shine a brighter light. That night, she uploaded her video. The one she had recorded 2 weeks earlier. Her voice clear. My name is Kendra Lawson. On September 11th, my son and I were assaulted in our home by officers who refused to verify our names, our address, or our right to exist where we live. She described the bruises, the missing reports, the altered paperwork, the silence. She didn't beg for help. She demanded attention, then posted the link to 3 emails. Civilian Audit Commission, Public Defender Oversight, and a retired judge she once cleaned bedsheets for in hospice. She titled the message, Pattern Confirmed. Footage pending. By morning, it had been forwarded 18 times. 2 replies came instantly. One was from a civil rights program offering independent legal review. The other was from someone she didn't know. Name redacted. But the message read, There's footage. But it never made it to the official chain. It was pulled before upload. I have a copy. Attached was a drive link. She downloaded it. Held her breath. Clicked. It was grainy, but clear. The moment officers entered, Elijah's voice. What's happening? The takedown. The taser. Her scream. The voice saying, wait, wrong apartment. Then silence. She paused it. Rewound. Listened again. Frame by frame. Then hit save. And labeled it. Day 0, verified. That afternoon, Elijah looked at her across the table. So now what? She didn't hesitate. Now I send this to every office that told me there was no record. Will they believe you? Doesn't matter. Why not? She smiled, softly. Because now I don't need them to. It started with a knock. Not fists. Not boots. Just 3 soft knocks. Kendra opened the door slowly. A man in a suit. Early 50s. Holding a folder. Ms. Lawson? Yes. He handed her the folder. I'm not authorized to discuss it. Just to deliver. He turned and walked away. She didn't call after him. Just closed the door. Locked it. Then opened the folder. Inside, 3 printed pages. Top line. Preliminary officer conduct findings, confidential draft. She scanned quickly. Officer Ramirez, failure to intervene. Officer D. Lyric, negligence. Improper use of force report. Department action, pending administrative review. Suspension recommended. She exhaled. Not relief. Recognition. They weren't saying sorry. They were covering themselves. But this time on paper. That evening, she took Elijah to the park. He hadn't asked to go in weeks. Now he just walked in slow circles near the court. Hood up. Sketchbook in hand. He drew the park lights. The benches. Then a badge. Broken in half. He showed it to her without a word. She nodded. Want to keep it? He shook his head. I want you to use it. At home, Kendra uploaded the full video archive. Not just the taser moment. Everything. A 22-minute timeline. With labels. Context. Photos. Title. East Newark. What they didn't report. She didn't send it to news outlets. She sent it to the parents' board at Elijah's school. To the neighborhood association. To the nursing home where she used to work. Places that mattered. People who might listen before they judge. No hashtags. No dramatic music. Just facts. And a voice that never cracked. The next morning, the city issued a 4-sentence public statement. Effective immediately, Unit 409B will be placed on administrative hold pending review. Sergeant D. Lyric has been reassigned. A full audit of the September 11th incident is now underway. No further comment at this time. No names. No apology. But Kendra read between the lines. They heard her. Not because she shouted. Because she documented. And refused to disappear. Elijah stood by the window that night. Watching nothing. Just breathing. Will it happen again? He asked. Maybe, she said. Will they do it to someone else? She paused. Then answered honestly. Yes. Then what? She touched his shoulder. Then they better hope that person has a mother like me. He smiled. Tiny. Real. For the first time since day 0. Then turned back to the window. Not afraid. Just awake. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.